You're with me this morning? Okay. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Okay, yes, we're live. Good morning. Happy Monday, everyone. Listen, you made it through the weekend and we're back to the work week. So a happy Monday to you. I am Lady Victoria. I am your etiquette educator and your worthy life coach of Victoria School of Etiquette, where we offer a solution to your etiquette dilemmas. Broadcasting to you live this morning from the great windy city of Chicago. Chi-Town is what we like to call it. We are the best in the Midwest, and we are so happy to have you be a part of our broadcast on this morning. So, y'all please come on in, tag a neighbor, tag a friend, and you all come on in as we begin the broadcast on this morning. Listen, it's Monday, Mind Your Manners Monday. So real quick, we're going to jump into the subject of sleepovers of your children at another child's home. The question on the floor this morning is varied and many. How young is too young to allow your child to sleep over at another person's home, especially if it's a group sleepover? It's not just a one-on-one, your child going to see their best friend coming to their home and having a sleepover. Let's say it's a whole weekend affair. Adjust my lighting a little bit more. Let's say it's a whole weekend affair. They're not just going to be there on Friday night, but they're going to be there from Friday, and maybe you are planning to pick up on Sunday morning. So in a situation like this, how young is too young? Do you let your 7-year-old? Do you allow your 5-year-old to participate in the sleepover at another child's home of about the same age, all in the same age group? Do you require that parent's information? I mean, more than just their phone number and their address. Do you want to know a little bit more about the parents and how they run their household? What are the rules that are going to be engaged while your child is there? What is your expectation of the parents? And what happens if there's another child there and something goes wrong? Is there a limit to how many children you will allow your child to participate in if it's a group sleepover? What is a possibility for things going wrong? Does that increase with the number of children that are there? Or just what? There's so many questions to ask and so many things to be aware of, especially today, growing up today. There's so many things that we have to be concerned about. Just because your child is in another person's home, does that mean that you don't have to worry about stranger danger? Who else lives in the home with that family? Is it just a husband and wife and their 2.3 kids and a dog? Do they have Uncle Charlie living there too? Or do they have Cousin Suzette that lives there too? How old are these people? What do they do? What are their jobs? Are they in the home all of the time? Do they have access to your children? Will the parents be at home with your children the entire time that the sleepover is in effect? Whether it's 24 hours, 48 hours, or a 72-hour sleepover. Will one or both of those parents always be in the home and accessible to your children? What do you know about the other children that are going to be there as well? Do you require the information on those other parents as well? Their addresses, their phone numbers, and emergency contact. What happens if your child gets sick or another child gets sick while they're there in the home? Are there any allergies that you need to be aware of? You know, you're sending your child. Does another child have allergies? Does another child have some kind of, are they sick? Do they have a cold that weekend? Do they have pink eye? So many things. Head lice. No, I'm really reaching and thinking about all of the things that I oftentimes thought about when my children were younger and they were going to sleepovers. Participating in sleepovers. Now, I grew up, I'm not going to tell you my age, but when I grew up in an era where we didn't have to worry so much about those kinds of things, because if you were having a sleepover and it was just down the block, around the corner, or in the neighborhood, wherever it was, oftentimes parents were a bit more attentive, should I say, sometimes than some parents that we might deal with today. But the point I'm making is that if I went over to Miss Sally's house for a sleepover, it was just like me being at home. I couldn't do anything at Miss Sally's house that I couldn't do in my own house. I couldn't go roaming around in her bathroom, looking through the cabinets. I couldn't wander off into another room that was not the child's room where I was sleeping over at. I couldn't just go down to the kitchen all by myself and pour myself a glass of milk and get me a handful of cookies and come on back upstairs to the bedroom and eat them. It wasn't done that way. Everything was planned out, everything was planned out. You were told what you could and couldn't do beforehand. And then the parents had a relationship. The parents knew each other. My mom, for the bulk of my staying home in my young years, my mom was a stay-at-home mom. So if something went wrong, you could always call the other parent's house. You could call my mom's house and get a hold of her. There were a lot of things that were put into practice in my age of growing up in sleepovers that wasn't necessarily how I want to say, it wasn't that it wasn't practiced, but it just seems like that there wasn't as much attention to detail. And when my children were growing up, they were young, they very rarely went over to sleepovers at a friend's house. They could go on a sleepover to their cousin's house, relatives' homes, but rarely did I allow them to participate in sleepovers at another child's home, even though I may have known the parent. And knowing the parent went beyond us just knowing that this is my child's, the parent of my child's classmate. It went beyond that. I wanted to know the parent. I wanted to know what was going on in their household. I wanted to know how they were raising their children. I wanted to kind of know what was the flavor of the home there. What were their beliefs? Were their children able to call them mom and dad, or did their children call them by their first names? We didn't do that. We didn't call our parents by their first name. It was mom and dad. It was not Catherine or Charlie. No, unheard of. And so there were a lot of things, a lot of questions that went back and forth before my children got to participate in sleepovers. I don't care how bestie friends you were with the other child. It had to go beyond that. I needed to know something about the parent. So the question on the floor this morning, the story is of a group of 9-year-olds that were participating in a sleepover at one child's home, and it was a weekend sleepover. And so the mom had, a day of activities planned the day before the actual party. The activities were on a Friday, and she had pizza and movie and all of those things for the kids, for the girls. It was just girls. It was not a mixed group. That's another thing to consider. Do your child participate in sleepovers that it is of mixed genders? Is it all boys? Is it all girls? Or is it allowed to be boys and girls? Are they going to be separate once they get into the home, or will everything be done together? Will they all be sleeping in the room together or in adjoining rooms? So do you have girls in one room and boys in another room? These are things to consider, a lot of things to consider when you are talking about sleepovers and when you are allowing your child to participate in them. We also are concerned about abuse of the children, not just of a sexual nature, but how do the parents engage the children? How do they talk to them? Do they talk to them with an undertone of authority, or does that undertone somehow carry some kind of a threat if you don't do what I ask you to do? Are they kind? Are they generous? Are they nice? Just because your child is invited over to a sleepover doesn't always mean that that environment is the best for your child. So how far do you investigate? Good morning. Thank you for joining. How far do you investigate, and how much information do you require of the parents? Exchanging phone numbers, again, emergency contacts. What's the protocol if your child gets sick? What's the protocol if their child gets sick? What's the protocol if the party needs to be canceled or adjusted, if it needs to be moved from one location to another? Did you discuss all of those things in advance? So in this setting, all of the children were having a sleepover at the parent's home, at the child's home. her parent was there, and the age of the children was all girls. The age of the children were 9 years old. They were all the same age. After all of the pre-party activities on the day before, mom took the girls in, gave them pizza and a movie, and went on up to her room and prepared for bed as it was late, and she had a lot of things to prepare for still the next morning. And the girls had an event at school before the party was going to start later that afternoon. So she wakes up and prepares breakfast and all of that, and only to discover later that one of the girls is missing, not in her home, nowhere to be found, looking all over the home, trying to find out where she is, calling her name. She goes in, she's in a panic because she can't find her anywhere in the home. They go outside looking. She's not outside anywhere. She's not in the backyard anywhere. They look in the basement. She's not up there. They look all over the house. This child is nowhere to be found. And none of the girls seem to know anything. What do you do in a situation like that? So, in a panic, she calls the parents, only to get no answer from the parents. So, of course, her panic and her anxiety heightens even the more. Now she's at the point where she's calling the police because, oh my gosh, I lost a child that was in my care. And so oh my gosh, what do I do? Who do I call? I mean, I've called the parents and I've got no answer. There were no other emergency numbers for her to contact, no one else for her to call and reach out to and say, hey, your child was here last night when we all went to bed, but it is now, 9 o'clock in the morning, breakfast is ready, and she's not come downstairs, and the other girls don't seem to know where she is. Well, in all of her excitement and anxiety of everything that was going on, the mom missed asking one other girl who was in the shower at the time when she was questioning everyone. And so later, this other child comes out and says to the mom, she called her parents at 3 o'clock in the morning and asked them to come and get her. Really? 3 a.m. in the morning? And no one knocked on her door to say, hey, Ms. DuBose, listen, I'm not feeling well, so I'm asking my parents to come and pick me up. I have a stomach ache, headache, or whatever, or I just want to go home. Nothing transpired between the girls, where she wanted to go home. The reason why she wanted to go home was undisclosed, but the fact remains that she left another person's house at 3 a.m. in the morning, and no one was the wiser. She told one girl, not telling the others. I don't know how the others missed out that she wasn't there when they all got up in the morning. They're 9 years old. Maybe they just didn't, think to say anything about it to mom. And the girls whose home she was in, she should have immediately gone and told her mom, even though it was 3 o'clock in the morning. That's the thing where you wake mom up and say, hey, one of the girls is going home. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. And the mom was really upset, not only that she just left, but she left and she left her door open. She left her door unlocked, rather, I should say. She left the door unlocked. So I doubt that perhaps they did not have a security system or anything like that on the door because no alarms went off. But you left another person's home at 3 o'clock in the morning and you didn't say anything to anyone about it. What's the protocol on that? That is a huge no-no. She finally did call the police, but before the police could arrive, the parents finally called her back and said, she wanted to come home, so my husband came and got her at 3 o'clock in the morning. And you didn't think to call me? You didn't think that it was important enough for you to call and say, hey, my child is at your house and she wants to come home. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. Yes, it's worth waking you up for. That's not something you wake up to later and discover. The parents on the other end, in my opinion, were in the wrong. They were out of control. That was not only was it not good manners, good morning, thank you for joining. Not only was it not good manners, but it was not good common sense. Why would you allow your child to leave a person's home and not say anything to the parent? I'm bringing my child home. How would you feel if you woke up and discovered a child that was left in your care is now just gone? You don't know what happened. Your mind goes all kind of crazy because you think all kinds of crazy things. Did something happen? Did someone come into the house by chance? Was she kidnapped out of my home? How do you explain to another parent that I lost your child I lost your kid. She was at my house. She was here last night when we went to bed. It was late, 11:30 at night. She was here. I checked the room. They were all asleep by 1. But now it's 9 a.m. and she's nowhere to be found. You came and got your child, and you didn't have the common courtesy to call me, text me, send up a smoke signal to say, I'm removing my child from your home. I know it's early in the wee hours. You didn't have common enough sense to say that. You weren't thoughtful enough to extend that courtesy to someone that opened up their home to have your child there and entertain them. And then you come and remove them from the home, and you don't have common courtesy to inform the parents that she's gone. Rude beyond measure. Inconsiderate. Way over the top. So, this is just a little food for thought on this Monday morning. Not starting out our week on a bad note, but how incredible, how incredibly amazing, how incredibly inconsiderate is it to allow something like that to happen, and you don't say a mumbling word to the parent who is hosting your child. So, the next question on the floor is, should this mom have been upset? Yes, very much so. Was she right in the way that she reacted? Yes. She looked for the child, she called the parents, got no answer, got no response, and then resorted to calling the police. Can you imagine how she must have felt? Can you imagine that her heart was in her mouth, thinking that this child just disappeared from her home and not knowing what happened, thinking the worst, perhaps, that something had happened to this child? So, this is why I say that there needs to be a lot of communication going on in situations like that. You need parents' phone numbers. You need backup numbers. You need emergency contacts. Is the emergency contact someone that you can get to, or someone that can get to you in a few minutes, not someone that might live clear across town? If that's the only solution, that's the only solution. But you typically want someone that you can connect with right away. And in my opinion, and I think in the opinion of most parents today, yesterday, and tomorrow, they would feel the same way, that the parent that sent their child and picked their child up had an obligation to let the host family know immediately that they were removing the child from the home. At least come and lock your door. My daughter's sick, or she wants to come home for whatever reason. At that point, it doesn't even matter why she left. But the fact that there was no communication was hugely out of order. So, when you're preparing your children for sleepovers, young, middle-aged, or whatever, always make sure that you have all of that information. You need the host family, or if you are the host family, make sure that everyone has your information. Even the parents of the children, of all of the children, not just one particular child. It's a group. All the parents should exchange numbers with each other. There should be a chain of, command of how you want to reach out. If someone gets sick, if something happens, if something happens in the other parent's home all of a sudden, and their child is at your home, and they either need to come and get the child, or they have another family emergency or something that comes up and they need to leave. Can your child stay an extra day? All of those things should and need to be discussed, and you need to have a plan for emergencies, and you need to establish a protocol up front for what's going to happen when situations happen. Right? So this is just a few minutes of a question that was presented to me on this morning, and I wanted to share it with you on today. So when you're planning sleepovers or outings or events, it doesn't always have to be a sleepover. If you're taking the kids out to the zoo, you're taking them all out to the park for a play date or whatever it is, please make sure that you have all of the necessary information, that you have an established plan of escape or rerouting or whatever it is, that you have phone numbers and emergency contact numbers, and you have a plan and a protocol for how you're going to handle things if something should go awry. Sleepovers and the missing child and broken parental trust. That child can never, ever come to my house again. Period. I don't blame the child, but the parent should have exercised more parental control and communication in that situation. So listen, I am out of time. I have to get out of here. Thank you everyone for watching the broadcast. Those of you that are just coming on, please hit the replay and watch the show in its entirety. Please like and share across your various social media platforms. If you've not subscribed to my YouTube channel by the same name, Victoria School of Etiquette, please go on over, hit the subscribe button so that you have access to all of our video material at your fingertips and at your convenience. I applaud you all on this morning and wishing you happy Monday, a great start to your work week. Have a blessed day. This is Lady Victoria signing off. Until the next time, bye for now.